So, your cash pay practice has stopped growing, but you have a good team. You've got patients coming in. You've probably tried a marketing agency or two or three, and still the practice sits roughly at the same revenue it did 18 months ago. Here's what nobody's told you. It's almost never the team. It's almost never the marketing. It's the design of how decisions get made, or more accurately, how they don't get made inside a practice that's grown past the point where the physician can decide everything themselves. I'm going to show you 3 tests that diagnose it and how to fix it in one meeting. This one is for the leadership team of a cash pay practice, the physician, the ops manager, and whoever else handles strategic decision making. Watch it and then pass it on to the other 1 or 2 people who make the decisions in your practice. Now, at the beginning of Star Trek Voyager, Captain Janeway had a call to make: destroy the alien technology that could send her crew home, or preserve it and let an entire species be enslaved. She had 24 hours to decide. There was no committee she could convene, no chain of command she could ping, and no way to reach Starfleet for orders. She was 70,000 light years from anyone who could tell her what to do. And, surprisingly, Starfleet Academy doesn't have a module on what to do when an alien array flings your ship across the galaxy in an afternoon. No manual, no precedent, nobody in the Federation had ever run this scenario. She had to adapt in real time to a situation the training program hadn't been designed to prepare her for. Now, in the end, she acted, she destroyed the array, and she stranded her crew. And she never apologized for it. The ops manager of a cash pay practice is having a slightly less dramatic version of that same decision every week. They're waiting for permission from the owner, the physician, and permission that they never told them that they didn't need. They're essentially doing the best they can to navigate what I call the permission trap. Let me show you what I mean. The permission trap isn't about a lack of authority, and it's all about a lack of clarity around where the authority actually sits. So when a decision hasn't been explicitly delegated, an ops manager defaults to waiting. When it has been explicitly delegated, she acts. The gap between those 2 states is measured in months and revenue. Here's what permission waiting looks like in a real cash pay practice. It looks like an ops manager who won't launch a new service line because they haven't heard the physician say the exact words, "launch it," even though the physician has already told them twice offhand that it's a great idea. It looks like a set of prices that they suspect are too low, sitting unchanged for 18 months because nobody has explicitly given the ops manager authority to change them. And if they mention it to their team or their friends outside the industry, read "not your ideal buyers," they're going to tell them that $5,000 for a package is very expensive. It's not. But they don't know that for sure because they're not in charge of setting pricing and might not have put several practices through the process of raising their rates to have enough confidence that they're right. The permission trap looks like a quarterly practice review that keeps getting postponed to the right moment, when the right moment mysteriously never appears. It looks like a legal review that came back 3 months ago and is sitting untouched still in someone's inbox because nobody said, act on it. And I'll name my own version of this. It looks like a phone call the ops manager had scheduled with me that then quietly cancels it because they weren't sure whether the physician actually wanted them to be having conversations with an outside nerd about their numbers. None of that is about competence, and all of it is about ambiguity. An ops manager who genuinely does not know whether the decision is theirs to make, and who, in the absence of clarity, chooses the option that can't get them fired. And if you're the ops manager watching this, I already know the dynamic you're inside of. You have huge respect for your boss. She's probably very charismatic and excellent at what she does. She cares about her patients and is amazing with them. Yet, getting her to sit down and look at a freaking spreadsheet is like suggesting a full-on ritual torture session. Even if she's smart and even if she gets numbers, it's just really hard to task switch when your days are filled using a different part of the brain entirely. And none of that is a personal failing on either side. It's the predictable behavior of two roles operating without an interface between them. Your position, the ops manager position, exists precisely to take the numbers side off her plate. That's the design. The design solved one problem. It just needed one more piece of scaffolding to solve the other. So how do you diagnose the permission trap your practice is in? Well, there are 3 tests, and I'm going to walk you through them. Think of them as the ship's system diagnostic Janeway would have run on Voyager after the first jump, checking one subsystem at a time. The first test is what I call the one name test. Take the 15 decisions your practice makes over and over: pricing changes, service launching, hiring, marketing pushes, the quarterly review, the annual planning, the response to a bad Google review, the response to a slow month, and check whether every single one of them has exactly one person's name attached to it, either the physician's or the ops manager or whoever is involved. If more than one name is on it, or if no name is on it at all, that decision sits in limbo. Nobody moves it because nobody's sure they're supposed to. So to fix it, the ops manager and the physician need to sit down and map those 15 decisions. Put a name next to each one. Where there's ambiguity, resolve it in the room and write it down. That one exercise, done properly once, changes more in a practice than most marketing initiatives change in a year. Not because it's clever, but because it removes the friction that was quietly stopping every good idea from happening. The second test is the standing meeting test. Not that you're standing literally, although I have seen that done. Every practice has meetings, but the question is whether they recur on a predictable schedule with one person in the room who's clearly in charge of making the call, or whether they happen ad hoc. Oh, let's talk about it when we have a chance. Ad hoc is the same limbo dressed up as flexibility, and flexibility in an operational context is the polite word for nobody owns it. A weekly ops meeting with a specific agenda and a named decider produces decisions. A quarterly let's touch base produces coffee. Janeway ran senior staff meetings every morning at 7 for 7 straight seasons. The third test is the escalation trigger test, and this is the sharpest of the 3. Ask your ops manager, when do you escalate a decision to the physician, and when do you decide yourself? If the answer is, when I'm not sure, that's limbo. The ops manager plays it safe and nothing moves. Confidence-based escalation always defaults to caution, because caution has no downside for the ops manager individually. But when the answer is, when the dollar value is above X, or when it involves this specific category of patient, or when a member of staff is being let go, that's authority. Trigger-based escalation lets an ops manager decide. Confidence-based escalation stops them from ever getting started. Which brings me back to Janeway. What made her decision architecture different from most of the ops managers I've watched over the years? Well, she had explicit delegation. As the captain of a Federation starship operating in a novel situation with no Federation contact, the authority was hers by design. The Prime Directive existed. Its application in that situation was hers to interpret. She wasn't a rebel. She was operating exactly within her assigned scope. There was nobody to wait for, and the ship's operating architecture had already said so. Your ops manager needs the same 3 things Janeway had. Explicit delegation, so they know that the decision is theirs. Named authority, so that nobody senior overrides them casually or after the fact. And trigger-based escalation, so they know exactly when to bring the owner in and, more importantly, exactly when not to. So, here's your assignment. In the next 2 weeks, get the leadership team in one room. That's your owner physician, the ops manager, and whoever else handles decision making right now. Map the top 15 recurring decisions in the practice. Put a name next to each one. Wherever there's ambiguity, decide it in the room and write it down. That's the permission audit. Watch how many things start moving that were quietly waiting for the permission that you never even knew you were withholding. Now, if you're watching this and thinking, okay, great, permission audit is on the list, and you're also sensing there are half a dozen other things in your practice you know you could probably tighten up, but you don't have a system for it, and you're not sure which one to reach for first, here is where I'd start. What if I could show you the highest leverage thing an ops manager can own inside a cash pay practice? Well, I can. It's the architecture between the front door and the second sale, the piece that turns the entry visit from a dead end into the start of a long-term relationship. When it's installed, revenue per patient starts moving on its own. When it's missing, your team spends every month closing for the practice instead of running it. And you spend your week carrying the second job that quietly eats away at the practice. I've packaged the whole thing into the More Per Patient framework, a video training that hands you the 3 signs that tell you whether your next move is a lead problem or an architecture gap. Then it shows you exactly what to install to close that gap. Links in the description. Watch it with your physician if you can, and you'll walk out of that meeting with a shared starting point and a very specific first decision to attach a name to. Now, if the permission trap is real in your practice, the first decision probably worth tackling first is about pricing, because that's where waiting hurts the practice the most. In this case, watch this video next about raising your prices.